So in this video, we are going to have some discussion on ERD. What is ERD? It is Entity Relationship Diagram, which basically focuses on concepts of databases, how to design a database, what is the logical structure of a database, how to represent it, and for that you need just three basic things. Those are first entities, second is attribute, and third is relationship. So if you know about these three terms, you can draw ERD. So let's see how to draw it. So let's first discuss about what is entity. So entity is an object which stores data, which has some meaning, which has some real world data. For example, subject, for example, student, for example, course. So it has some meaning and it stores data. And next is attribute. Now attribute is dependent on the entity, which is a property that describes an entity with some more information. For example, if you have entity student, then its attribute can be student ID, student name, student address, anything which is related with the entity. Or if you have an entity like subject, so you can have attribute like subject name, course name, which has more information which is related with the entity. And now next is relationship. So relationships are between two entities. For example, student and subject are two entities. Then relationship is like enroll, means students enrolls in a course. So we can have multiple entities and we can have multiple relationship and we can have more information which stores as an attribute. So if you draw these three at combination, which can be called as ERD, and it can represent your database so easily, which can be understand. So let's see how to draw entity. So entity is, it has actually two types. First is strong entity, which has attribute and which is uniquely identified. So you can say if you have an attribute which is uniquely identifies a value, that entity is called as a strong entity. Next entity is weak entity. Obviously, it is entity which cannot be uniquely identified by its own attributes. So that attribute needs some another attribute which uniquely identifies the value. So two types, strong entity and weak entity. So how to draw strong entity? So you can draw entity symbol like this. If you have a strong entity, it means if you have a uniquely identification of an attribute, then it is strong entity. If you have weak entity, so this is the symbol of weak entity, which is cannot be uniquely identified by its own attribute alone. Correct. So these two are entity types. Now, what is attribute? So attributes are the property that defines entity type. So as we discussed in the previous slide, if you have an entity student, then roll number, student name, age, address, the related information of a student can be considered as attribute. So how to represent attribute? So we can draw this symbol and that can be called as an attribute. So let's see example. Attributes. So there are some types of attribute. First is a key attribute. The attribute which uniquely identifies each entity. So if you have a unique value as an attribute, then you have a key attribute. For example, roll number. It is a key attribute which is unique because it is defined as a unique number. So if you have a underline here, it means treated as a primary key, unique key. Second type of attribute is multi-valued attribute. So which attribute have more than one value for given entity? If you have an entity and which has more than one value, then you call that as a multi-valued attribute. For example, phone number. It means that one person can have many phone numbers, correct? So you can consider it as a multi-valued attribute. Next is derived attribute. So the name says derived. So it is derived from another attribute. So one attribute derives another attribute. For example, age of a person. So this is a symbol, dotted lines, you can see dotted lines, which is a derived attribute. So age is defined by the date of birth. So date of birth is a attribute, and from that we can have age of a person, which is again a attribute. So that is derived attribute. And next is composite attribute. Now you can see composite attribute. So address is a one attribute, but that address can have city, that address can have area, that address can have pin number. It means if your attribute have many other attributes which have values, those are composite attributes. So these are the types of attributes. Now let's see relationship. Relationships can be represent like this. So this is the relationship. If you have a strong relationship and if you have a weak relationship, so you can draw a diagonal like this, box like this, and you need these connected lines to show links, to show communication between two entities. So let's see one by one type of relationship. So very first relationship is one to one. Now consider that there are entities. A relationship can be shown using entities. So how to draw relationship in ERD? So one represents one entity is related with another entity with a one-to-one relationship. Correct. And this issued to is a relation. So let's see how to represent it. So one person issued to one password. So this is example of one-to-one relationship. Second is one to many. So there are entities which related with one entity can be associated with a multiple entities. So many entities. So for example, one surgery means one department of a surgery, it is a department, has many doctors. So you can say one department has many doctors. So this can be called as a one to many relationship. Same like that, many to one. So from many, you have many entities, and from one, you have just one entity which is associated with the many entities. For example, many surgeries done by one doctor, a doctor. Yes, a doctor can perform many surgeries. So many to one. And the last is many to many. So if we have entity set, so there are many entities related with a many more entities which communicates using these lines. So many to many. For example, many employees works on many projects. So like this, relationship can be identified and represents in a ERD. Next is how to draw an ERD. So there are some basic things you require to draw an ERD. So let's see. First is identify entities. So if you read something, if you have information, then identify entities which has some meaning, which can be more detailed description we can have as attributes. So first, gather information, identify all the entities. Second is identify all the relationship between the entities, because if you identify entities, then it has an entity set. Then not a one, but there are many entities. So how they are communicating with each other, how they defines relationship with each other, like one to many, many to many, many to one. So you identify that. Then add attributes. So add some more information about the entities, that is attribute, and categorize it into the types of attribute. Then define primary keys, whether your entities, whether your data identifies uniquely, yes or no. If it is unique key, then you should specify it. So define primary keys, remove all the redundancies. Yes, so remove all the redundancies means remove all the duplicate values, duplicate links. Your data should be in a proper format which represents the logical structure of your database, can be normalized form, and review it means whatever you did, whatever you have, is it correct? Is it uh, easily described, or fetches all the information correctly? So you should clarify it. So in the next video, we are going to have some examples that how to draw an ERD. Thank you.